I think I would love for you to speak a little bit to the physical and mental challenges. So most specifically is when I know there were some excerpts that were bugging you for some of the process, some of the piccolo excerpts and some of the low register things. And so I'm curious for you to kind of speak to how you kept your mental state sort of positive while you were building towards a more consistent execution of those. And then just in general, mentally, how did you, I mean, you already spoke to it with like walking around your place with the trumpets and trying to dial in, but just in general, like how did you cultivate sort of a clear headspace that you were able to perform at your highest level in the audition?
Yeah. So, that's interesting because that was a tough thing for me. I think for me, the hardest part about preparing an audition was the mentality. I really needed to manage my expectations. So much of auditioning, I think, is a mental game, and we all want to win. I, of course, wanted to win. Of course, I was like very happy to get closer to winning, but I don't think that should necessarily be the goal. I think that when you place this kind of pressure on yourself, the more you want something, the more pressure you put on yourself. For me personally, it might be different for other people, but the harder I fall when I don't get it. It's almost like I have this innate ability to psych myself out to the point really of self-sabotage. Like I'm never really giving my full potential and I'm just getting in my way. So I really had to spend a lot of time just practicing believing in myself, being, fearless and confident. And because the goal is that the audition itself really should be no different than any day of your prep. It should be very predictable. You shouldn't expect yourself to play better than how you prepared, and you shouldn't worry about playing worse. Like you spend so much time building the consistency through this process. So you should place trust in the work that you've done. And I think that's a really freeing feeling. I think my particular nature is relatively obsessive when it comes to this. So this concept is really something I had to double down on and sometimes trick myself into believing. Sometimes I really just had to like distract myself altogether, especially in those final days, making sure, I'm occupying myself with things that I enjoy doing, both trumpet and non-trumpet related. Like those last few days I found are really crucial with setting yourself up, because for me, like the more obsessed you become, the more damage you're likely to do. Yeah. And so like one piece of advice I would say is like spend those last couple of days, hanging out with friends or family, be with, the people who can show you love and bask in that positive energy if you're unable to manufacture that yourself. Now, like, for example, if you're working on a list and there are certain excerpts, that are not really up to the speed that you expect yourself. Like for me, one thing I really had to work on was working on the piccolo trumpet. It's not really something I had taken the time to kind of dissect until relatively recently. And it's a skill that I really, really needed to hone in on. But, it wasn't necessarily, it's not my strongest skill for sure. I can definitely say that. And it's something I had to work on a lot. And I think the hard thing for me was not letting myself get bogged down. It's a thing that takes time really to develop. You can't rush that process. You can't let yourself cut corners, because again, like you will likely cause damage the more you try to skip steps of your development. But like, I think the big thing with that is managing your expectations. I don't think your goal should be going into an audition to win. I think it should be more focused on the process of, like we said, getting better. I think for example, if my piccolo excerpts are not up to speed by the time of the audition, that's okay, because the work that I'm putting in is not lost. Mm-hmm. It's a cumulative effect that builds with each audition that I take. And I think it'll take however much time really it needs to take. So I think like make sure you're focusing on musical thoughts, not technical thoughts. Make sure you're not getting bogged down, and make sure you have realistic expectations for yourself. Because everyone takes a different path. It really takes a different amount of time for people to get to the same place.
Yeah.